What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the PNN podcast. We hope you're doing well wherever you are. Thank you for joining us on this 95-degree day in the valley in Tempe. I'm in Tempe. Edward is in downtown Phoenix, where all the bums are at. Um, anyways, yes, it feels like summer's already in the air, Edward. Like I said, 95 degrees already today. It feels great, honestly. Everyone's out by the pool right now. Everyone's chilling, getting ready for MLB opening weekend. We got the TGL Championship tonight, and then obviously the best time of the year still here, March Madness. So, um, yeah. Anything to add, Edward Neiman?
Yeah, warm weather right on cue with opening weekend in the MLB. D-backs are in town to begin the MLB season, so obviously a little buzz in the air there. But you mentioned it, March Madness still kind of dominating the headlines right now. It's turned into March Sadness for me at this point with my bracket. But yeah, we move and good episode ahead here. A lot to get cracking on and a little return of the NBA hoops bus as well. NBA enters their final stretch before the playoffs.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to bring up the massacre that happened with the Lakers a couple nights ago when the Chicago Bulls absolutely just ran through them. Any thoughts on that before we get into the episode, though?
No, matter of fact, I didn't even know that happens. That's news to me.
Okay,
No, but yeah, it's Lakers in five still. So
okay.
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great.
You're not taking like any Shannon Sharp route saying like how like this team, every a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. That's the thing with the Chicago Bulls against the Lakers that night.
Yeah, I mean, even a broken clock's right twice a day. So it is what it is. The Chicago Bulls did their thing, but once again, they like to make that trip to the SoFi playing tournament. So every year it's them and the Atlanta Hawks playing each other. So I hope they have fun in that.
All right, fair enough. Speaking of SoFi, let's get into the SoFi Cup and the TGL Championship. Um, Pretty big as it just started Monday. We're recording this Tuesday, so Wednesday there might be already a winner as the Atlanta Drive is up 1-0 in the series against the New York Golf Club. Um, I like this headline here on the TGL website. It says after 3 months, 18 matches, 181 points, 83 hammer throws, and 270 holes, it all comes down to this. And I mean, what a first inaugural season of the TGL. It definitely caught our interest. I know it's caught some other people's interest as well. Especially in this playoffs, like we said, during the season they kind of joke around. You get to hear them mic'd up, but like when it comes to playoffs, like they're taking it more seriously. There's a lot more, I wouldn't say a lot more trash talk, but like more personal trash talk on the course. And yeah, so we got game two tonight, in about like an hour, I believe. And New York looks to keep their season dreams alive against Atlanta Drive. But like I've been saying, Atlanta Drive, they know how to use that hammer. And so I think that's going to be key, but we'll see what happens tonight. Any thoughts on that, Edward?
Yeah, a really good game one match last night, 6-5 in favor of Atlanta. So, you mentioned it, Joey, the hammer a couple times there could have just been the difference. But you can't count out New York. New York clinched their playoff spot, that fourth and final playoff spot late in the regular season. So they've kind of had their back up against the wall all season long. Got a good group too, Cameron Young, Ricky Fowler, and Xander Schauffele. So I think you can't count them out tonight, but definitely, I think if you're Atlanta, you feel good. A couple big putts down the stretch. Billy Horschel had a pretty good moment. So I'm just liking the whole vibes and like if this is if tonight is the last match, I think like as far as TGL goes, you have to call it a success. One of those things that I thought was going to kind of fan out after the first couple of weeks, like after Tiger Woods and Ricky Fowler weren't taking part of it, but they made it work, and I'm excited to see next year maybe some new faces, but overall, it's been a very solid season. I'm excited to see game two tonight.
Yeah. I mean, like you said about next season, I hope they kind of add like at least two more teams. I
Yeah,
believe there's like a team from Texas in the works. Um, Well, other than that, like you couldn't ask for a better, I would say, even match in this championship. I know we got some fans of the PNN podcast that are rooting for New York Golf Club and some that are rooting for the Drive. Um, but yeah, we'll see what happens tonight. I hope it goes to game three. That would be pure cinema, and I think that's what the TGL would need. Especially, I
Yeah,
feel like a lot of people aren't really don't really know where to watch it. So I mean, it's on ESPN, which is like a great outlet for them as well.
yeah, I'm also hoping for a game three. I think also like worth mentioning, we talked about it before the playoffs started, the absence of Tiger or Rory in the playoffs, how that was going to kind of do for the TGL brand, not having the two marquee names of the league in the playoffs. But I think like these guys have done a good job at stealing the spotlight, getting into it, and playing good golf. So, um, I think it really hasn't lacked anything, despite two of the biggest names in golf not being there.
Yeah, agreed. Well, we'll see what happens. Like we said, when this drops Wednesday, ATL might be already the champions, the first ever TGL champions to win the SoFi Cup. But if not, then is game three tonight also if they win?
I believe game three would be tomorrow night on Wednesday. So I think they're
Okay,
still going to separate it, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong.
let me look at this. Tonight. Damn. So two matches tonight if needed.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, they don't have enough money to go 3 days straight, I guess, on ESPN.
Yeah.
So, damn. All right, so whatever happens tonight, Tuesday night,
Yeah.
goes down, and then we'll see what happens. We'll recap that next week, on the PNM podcast, and then hopefully we'll get some news on like what's happening next season. But other than that, that's all we got for TGL. Hopefully you guys have liked and taken a chance on it as we have along the way. But other than that, what do we have up next, Edward? What do we got next?
Yeah, opening weekend in the MLB. It's finally here. I think a couple episodes ago we talked a lot about the season preview. So if you missed that episode, want to hear a little more in-depth analysis and preview of the upcoming season, you can go slide over to that episode and watch it. But as far as this week, we're 2 days away, 48 hours away from opening weekend, Thursday. I guess the season, I should say, here in the United States begins. Obviously, the Tokyo series already took place, but the majority of teams get underway on Thursday night. So yeah, Joey, your feelings. I know you're a big MLB baseball guy. It's summer, like you can really say summer is on the way now that baseball's starting.
Yeah, and with this 95 degrees, it feels like
Yeah,
spring is kind of ending. We're gonna get into triple digits here soon. Yeah, opening weekend. I mean, one of one of the best times. I mean, bro, you pair that with March Madness, it's like you can't really top that this weekend.
right.
But I'm wondering for you, Edward, what is your opening day weekend series to look for?
Yeah.
When you're looking at these teams, what opening day starters are you looking at for that series? So
Yeah, well, as far as the series itself, I'm most looking forward to it. Obviously, it's going to be the Chicago Cubs and the Arizona Diamondbacks for obvious
okay,
reasons. I mean,
what are the obvious reasons for
well, I
that?
think when you look at the Chicago Cubs, you have to throw them in the World Series conversation at this point in the season. And then of
Wait,
course
what?
them playing here in Arizona, I think also gets me pretty excited for it. So
Did you say throw them into the conversation already at this part of the season?
yes, yeah.
Okay, but the season hasn't started yet.
Well, we did already lose 2 games in Tokyo, so
Okay,
yeah.
and you're good with that? You think they're still World Series bound?
You might as well you want to get the losses out early in the season rather than, be losing down the stretch going into the playoffs. So I'm definitely looking forward to the Cubs this year. But as far as the actual like opening day matchup, it's going to be Steele on the mound for the Cubs and then Gallen out there for the Diamondbacks. Steele had a shaky outing out in Tokyo, was kind of slow to warm up. So you're hoping that he can come back and have a bounce back performance on Thursday night. And then as far as Zach Gallen goes for the Diamondbacks, we know what we're getting with him. Cy Young caliber pitcher. We talked a lot about that rotation for Arizona and some of the pieces that they added to their infield over the winter. So I think both teams are in a competitive position when it comes to their division, and it all starts for them both on Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, you got to face Galland and Burns back to back, I'm guessing. So, I mean, right now I'm taking D-backs to win that series respectfully.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, I see you guys getting no hit at least one of those games.
Okay.
So,
That's fine.
yeah.
Yeah. How about you?
Um, my opening day series is gonna be the Braves taking on the Padres.
Okay.
I mean, great opening day starters as we got Sale versus Michael King. Um, Obviously Sale got injured towards the later half of the season last year, or wasn't available in the playoffs for them, I believe. So going against a playoff caliber team, and then Michael King, we know what he can do. Obviously reliable for that team, but I'm interested to see Jurickson Profar. I mean, he was like the heartbeat of that team last year for the Padres. Now on the Braves, he'll take on his former team. And then you just got young talent there with Acuna and Harris, and then on the Padres you got guys like Jackson Merrill and all those guys to look at. So I think it's just gonna be stacked lineups and stacked pitching against each other, and it's a great opening weekend series.
Yeah, as far as the Braves go, I did have the pleasure of seeing them put up 13 runs yesterday in spring training. So shout out to them. Uh, they were out here in Arizona, of course, on the way to San Diego. So yeah, good performance by them in spring training.
Yeah.
I forgot who
Um,
they played in that game, but they did put up 13 runs yesterday.
oh yeah, I think we talked about it last week, but it's all good,
Yeah,
Um, who so what, you know what I mean? It's
right,
all right, we move on to the next game.
right.
But yeah, that's our opening day or opening weekend series that we're looking for. Hopefully you guys have a I mean you guys should call off honestly you guys should call off this whole weekend
Yeah,
for
I was
just
gonna say
to watch sports.
Thursday you have opening day and you have March Madness Friday. Like you might as well just take the rest of the week off at that point.
Sweet 16 and Elite 8 weekend
Yeah,
with opening weekend series. I mean, what can you ask for? You know
right.
what I mean? Only thing more you can ask for is just seeing a no-hitter by the D-backs.
Okay.
So,
That's fine. I'm feeling good now that Joey said that. I'm feeling like the Cubs are actually going to sweep. So just like the jinx that Joey put on them is great.
it's not jinx. I'm just saying like you got to face two Cy Young pitchers back to back days.
That's okay. That's okay. When you're a World Series caliber team like the Chicago Cubs, you don't really care about that. You got to beat the best to be the best. So
All
here,
right.
but yeah,
All right, respect. All right. Well, that's all we got for MLB. Um, let's get over to the hoops bus. Let's talk about these Lakers.
yeah. So as far as the Lakers go, it's been a little rough. But final stretch of the regular season, like we said, Lakers have 11 games. All the teams have about 10-ish, 11-ish games left on their schedule. Right now, the only teams to clinch, to for sure clinch a playoff berth, the Cavs, Celtics, and Thunder. So the Western Conference is a very competitive conference still, at least for especially for playoff position. The top six teams, the teams avoiding the playoffs in the Western Conference right now, the Thunder, Rockets, Nuggets, Lakers, Grizzlies, and Warriors. All those teams are separated by less than 4 or 5 games. And then the teams in the Eastern Conference avoiding the playoffs right now are the Cavs, Celtics, Knicks, Pacers, Bucks, and Pistons. So, final stretch of the regular season. We've talked about some of the contenders and teams that we think are going to be tough to beat. Come late June, but as far as right now, the Celtics and the Thunder league best 6 game winning streak. So if you're either one of those teams, of course, Joe, you like to see that. As you enter this final stretch of the regular season. And then one note too on the Celtics, Jason Tatum did leave the game last night with an injury, so something to monitor. But right now, it kind of just feels like the cream of the crop is still showing why they're the best, and no one has really made a big move at the top positions atop each conference.
Yeah. One thing I like to point out, I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago, how the injuries with the Dallas Mavericks would probably cost them that 9-10 spot in the playoffs,
Yeah,
and give it to the Suns, and that's exactly what happened. We see a pretty desperate Suns team in the playoffs, which just shows you the caliber of the back end of that Western Conference. Um, but yeah, other than that, I mean, We talked about it before also, like how, one of these teams might get upset, how the Thunder might get upset by the Lakers or the Warriors.
Yeah.
And the Celtics, you said, are probably like the favorite to win. But with that Jason Tatum injury, we don't have an update, I don't believe yet. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with that. That's a huge loss for them, especially this is not the time to have those type of injuries. So, just hoping the best for the Celtics with that injury. But other than that, what else do you got for us?
Yeah, you bring up like the desperation aspect too. As far as the Mavs go, we see Anthony Davis return last night. Mavs went on to win the game. There was talks about shutting Anthony Davis down for the rest of the regular season, if the playoffs were out of reach. They're still in the playoff race, but they've slipped out of contention right now, like you mentioned. Mavs sitting at 11. The Suns, winners of the last four in a row, they're in that 10 spot, 2 games under 500. I feel a little obligated just to talk about the Suns because we're in Phoenix, but the Suns have been playing really good basketball last night. 108-106 win over the Milwaukee Bucks. Bucks 9 games over 500. So like a cross conference strong win there, top five win. KD 38 points, and then Devin Booker also turned in a really good performance with 19 of his own. So the Suns turning the corner at the right time. But I think just given how spread out the top teams are in each conference, they're really, important and fun games to watch at this point. Might just be those games, that involve some of the teams that are fighting for a play-in or playoff spot, like the Suns and Mavs, and you can just see that at least, via how desperate they're playing. So, but yeah, that's the NBA. 10-ish, 11 games, like I said, remaining in the regular season. So definitely some fun stuff still to sort out in the playoff race. But yeah,
Yeah. One thing I like to point out about the Suns, I don't know if you just said it, but they're on a 4 game win streak. So
yeah,
like you just said, playing good basketball. Another team on a hot win streak are the Indiana Pacers, 5 game win streak. So just teams to look out for, getting hot at the right time. That's always a good sign later in the season. It's they you know what they say, Edward, it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish the season.
true. That's very true.
So I will see. I don't think Anthony Davis coming back for the Mavs, I don't think it's worth it. Because even if you take that 10 spot from the Suns, realistically, what do you see yourself doing in the playoffs?
Right, because just to remind everyone too, the 9 and 10 seeds in the playing tournament, they have to win 2 games to get into the playoffs. So it's not one win in the playing tournament and you're in. You have to win 2 games and then you're in the playoffs, and then you have to go play 7 game series after that. So like, I think that's a good point because, just given Anthony Davis injury history, do you trust him to try to travel that very long road? Even if you get out of the plane to what maybe get beat in the first round. So
Yeah.
high risk move. Maybe just more beneficial to get him healthy, get him ready for next season. But that's why I'm not an NBA coach.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
And you would have LeBron on your team, so
Okay.
I don't know if that would be the best fit for you.
All right.
But yeah, let's go into this March Madness recap if you're ready for that.
Yeah.
Like you said, March Madness has turned sadness for you. I didn't even get out the first game in our bracket that we're in together.
Yeah.
Um, Louisville absolutely just sold my ass. So that's it. That's basically how I'll sum up one group, and the other group I'm sitting pretty good in, but I don't know, man. Well, I don't know why I keep doing this, respectfully.
Yeah. Every year I'm kind of in the same boat too. I didn't get out of the first game either, just for the record. Creighton and Louisville game screwed me, but yeah, I'm kind of right middle of the road right now. My bracket's at 63%. I have had a Final Four team drop, so that's not a great thing. But um, I think the most important thing is my champ Duke is playing good basketball, still looking like the number one overall seed in the tournament. So in that regard, I'm doing okay. But a lot of good matchups this weekend in the Sweet 16. But definitely a lot of chaos last week as well. I think there are it's kind of half and half for me. I expected some of these teams to be here. On the flip side, uh, you know, maybe teams such as like St. John's and stuff kind of underwhelmed me in the first weekend.
Yeah, I believe, this year was a bunch of chalk if you would put it that way.
Yeah.
Stephen A. Smith was saying how like this is not good for the game of basketball, basically due to the transfer portal. So we'd like to hear your thoughts. Like, what do you guys think? You think this is gonna ruin college basketball? Because you see, like, basically his argument was like these lower schools, once they make the tournament, or they're good players, would just go to teams that actually have a chance, and then that would basically be like these number one seeds would like never lose.
Right.
But I mean, that's the beauty of March Madness. You just never know. It's one game and you're done.
Right. And I
So
mean, in the same breath, like, we've seen, obviously, I think it's definitely going to have an effect on some of these smaller schools. But, we saw some good games, even this year by some of the schools that were just automatic bid teams got to the tournament via just winning their conference. I mean, McNeese I thought was pretty impressive first round against Clemson. High Point, they lost the first round. That was an upset a lot of people were picking. They put up a good fight though against Purdue. Purdue's played in a gauntlet Big Ten schedule so far, and then you had Drake too pulling off the upset. So, I think upsets are still going to happen, especially in that first round, that round of 64. But definitely it's going to be interesting to see like can we get those smaller schools making a Final Four run? Like, think the Florida Gulf Coast, back a couple of years ago, Loyola University going to the Final Four. Like, I'm not sure we're going to see those type of teams anymore make such a deep run just based on the NIL and all the money now that's in the game of college basketball, whether that's, for good or for bad, right?
yeah, I'd like to point out another upset that we kind of had a dispute on
Yeah,
last week was that Colorado State Memphis game.
yeah,
Um, yeah, what happened, Edward? You were kind of heavy glazing Memphis,
I
and
was.
then what I call that first round exit.
Yes, and now I'm not gonna lie. Memphis was missing one of their guards. He was a
Oh,
game time decision, so.
okay,
So
all right,
that like I was banking on everyone being healthy. I'm the optimist. I'm a
all
big
right.
optimist. I want people to be healthy, but Colorado State won. So congrats, Joey. But at the same time, like they were the favorite to win the game. Just to
Yeah,
like
no, that's what I said in the
right,
episode.
right. So it is what it is. You got to gamble sometimes. Scared money don't make money. So
Yeah.
I took a risk, but yeah, that didn't go so well. But also in that same region, the West. One of the teams that I think me and Joey both sung our praises to was Maryland. Maryland out of the Big Ten. Joey, you mentioned the strength of that starting five that they got. They made it out of the first weekend. Big matchup against Florida on in the Sweet 16, I should say. That I think that's personally one of the games I'm more excited for this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, I mean everyone's gonna talk about that game winner. There hasn't been a game winner like to win the game in like 7 years until that game winner. But the haters are gonna say it was a travel. I don't believe they called a travel. Do you remember them calling a travel on that
I
play,
don't
Edward?
remember them calling a travel at all on it.
Exactly. So if it's not called, I don't get what the issue is.
Right.
Anyway, yeah. That's a good matchup, 1 versus 4. I mean, both those teams had scary games if you pick them. Maryland, obviously with that game winner, Florida almost losing to the defending champs, UConn. Um, so yeah, that game's a real toss up for me. I can't really pick. Another game would probably be Duke, Arizona, just because of Caleb Love
Yeah.
and his history against Duke. And then you just got that matchup against Cooper Flag. So that'd be one to look at. Other than that, I mean, maybe BYU, Alabama, two of the top ranked offenses in all of college basketball going against each other. So,
Yeah, and BYU, I think a team maybe that's I would say flying under the radar, just in the sense like they beat a really good Wisconsin team. Wisconsin, with Tonje, he actually was the point leader of the first two games in of March Madness this weekend. BYU was able to take them out. So I think a team that I know you don't want to hear this, but could be capable of beating Alabama if the game gets into a shootout, high scoring battle. If defense kind of starts to diminish in that game, like I think you have to give BYU a chance in that one. So I'll definitely be interested in seeing that one. The matchup that I want, and I'm okay too, Joe. If we can reset here too and do some predictions as well, if you like. But the matchup that I want to see most this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, would be Michigan and Michigan State. Both have an opportunity to get to the Elite Eight. Michigan taking on the top seeded Auburn, and then Michigan State taking on Ole Miss. That would be cinema, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. Well, I hate to break the news to you, but that will not be happening.
Okay.
Auburn is in Georgia this weekend, basically home court advantage these next two games.
Hmm.
Take that with a grain of salt, because last time I said that, Louisville
Right.
sold round one. So,
You know,
but
I'm willing to do a gentleman's bet on that game, actually. Yeah,
what do you want to bet?
I'll take Michigan on that.
Okay. Well, in my better bracket, well, we're not even going to talk about the one that I did with everybody. I took Auburn to win in this one, so obviously I'm going to take Auburn.
Well, I have
Uh,
Auburn winning as well, but at this point, my bracket is just such in shambles that I'm still going to start to root for the people that I want to root for. Okay, and that's going to be Michigan.
okay.
So,
I do see an Ole Miss upset against Michigan State. I don't believe Michigan State is playing their best basketball right now.
really,
I think New Mexico hung around too much for my liking in that game. It was close until like the last minute. The score doesn't really say it. Um, but Ole Miss has kind of ran through every team so far. I mean,
yeah,
they played a good Iowa State team. Um, so we'll see what happens. I mean, again, I don't know, but I'll take Auburn, I guess, if you want to do a gentleman's bet.
yeah. I'll take Michigan. I'm cool with that.
Okay.
Got to talk about
Um,
a lot of people had Michigan getting upset by what was that University of California, San Diego, something like that.
yeah.
Um, they beat them, and then they also, I guess you could call it a slight upset over Texas A&M. I think what I was impressed with that game was Michigan's ability to close, had the lead for majority of that game, ended up beating them 91-79. So, for me, when I'm looking for cracks in the armor of teams, maybe shaky down the stretch, Michigan wasn't. And I think with the opportunity looming for them to be able to play Michigan State, like that adds some motivation to this Auburn game on top of will already be a tough game, like you mentioned, State Farm Stadium down in Atlanta. Uh, I guess Auburn's backyard. So whatever. I got Michigan. Shout out to the Big Ten.
All right. Do you want to go down to the West? Who do we got in this Sweet 16 matchups? Florida versus Maryland, Tech versus Arkansas.
Yeah, so as far as the Maryland and Florida game goes, I'm going to take the upset on this one too. That's what I have in my bracket. I'm going to stick with that. You mentioned the two close games both teams played. Florida 2-point win over UConn, and then as we mentioned before, the buzzer beater that was not a travel for Maryland, or I guess kind of a buzzer beater, game winner, I should say. So I'm gonna take Maryland on the upset here. I don't know. I think one of these number one seeds is gonna fall, and I think it could be Florida. However, I know Florida is one of the most picked champions among all brackets this year, so I'm gonna take a risk on that one.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that. I'll take Maryland also. I got them right into my final four. I just think that starting five plus their six man is elite. Um, and I feel like after that game winning, they're feeling good about themselves. They feel like, we could basically hang with anybody.
Yeah,
Um, so I mean, it's just hard. Florida's the best team in the country.
yeah,
But I'll go Maryland with that, and then Texas Tech versus Arkansas. I'm probably gonna take Tech. That's who I have in my bracket. Would not be shocked if I see Arkansas. Um, I mean, the only way Arkansas I think wins this game is if they have play a perfect game on offense.
yeah.
But I don't really see that with Texas Tech. Um, isn't yeah, JT Toppin. I mean, come on now.
Yeah, I'm going to take Texas Tech too. Love the defense of Texas Tech. That's kind of been their brand for the last couple of years when they've been making deep tournament runs. It all starts on the defense for them. And talking about Arkansas, that game against St. John's, it was an upset. It was, they beat a number two seeded St. John's team and Rick Pitino. So it was a good win. But what I'll say in that game is like they did catch St. John's on an atrocious shooting night. They did not shoot the ball well. Nor did Arkansas really, though. It was like a defensive battle. Guys were hitting the floor left and right. So it was kind of a weird, gritty game. Not exactly like you're happy to get the win in that sense, but I just think if you're John Calipari, not thrilled on how the method in which you won. And I think you're going to run into a good defense with Texas Tech, along with some guard play that will be able to put the ball in the basket, unlike St. John's. So I'm going to take Texas Tech there. Wouldn't be surprised if that's one of the wider margin games of the weekend.
All right, all right. In this East bracket, I had Duke and Akron. You know,
Okay.
I was probably high or whatever, picking Akron. No,
No,
I'm
no,
just
no,
kidding.
no. It was just for LeBron James. You don't have to lie to us. It was for LeBron's
Oh, okay.
hometown. Yes. It's
Yeah,
okay.
no, I was riding Akron high. I thought they would upset 2 rounds back to back, but got 30 balled first game.
Yeah.
Um, and this Duke U of A, I'm gonna take Duke. I just think they're the way better team. I think if they contain Caleb Love, that's all you really need to worry about. I mean, they do have some other guards, but it's not the same caliber as Duke. And then for BYU Alabama, I'm gonna go Bama, but definitely gonna be a shootout. I just think Bama has too many offensive weapons, especially with Steven Nelson back fully healthy.
Yeah.
It's just too many offensive weapons, whereas BYU probably has like 2 to 3 guards that can really score for them.
Yeah, in the Duke Arizona, I'm going to take Duke as well. I think I said this last episode, like talent eventually will win out. As far as Arizona, up and down year for them. They beat ASU twice, so you can obviously buy stock in that. But other than that, though, I mean, I will say you look at Arizona's last 5 games, a win against Oregon and Akron to start this tournament out. Before that, a close loss against Houston, only an 8-point loss. Houston, an eventual 1 seed in this tournament. They beat Texas Tech by 6 points. And they also beat Kansas by 11. So um, all of their last 5 games have been against some of the heavy hitters, some of the blue bloods of college basketball. So I think that's due in part what's made Arizona a tough team to read. But I think Duke's the overall best team in the tournament. So obviously I'm going to take them in this. And then as far as BYU and Alabama goes, I'll take Alabama as well. I like Nate Oates and the way he coaches his team. A team that I thought played with some good tempo against St. Mary's. Was pretty good offensively in transition. So I'll take Alabama in this one. But like I said, BYU may be a team that's flying under the radar, especially as a 6 seed.
Yeah. And then who do you got for your Midwest bracket?
In the Midwest, I took so initially in my Final Four, this is where I screwed up on my bracket. I had Clemson coming out of this. I don't know why. I got sold on the 2 guards that Clemson has. Obviously, wasn't the case. I'm going to take Houston over Purdue in the Sweet 16 game. Purdue, shout out to Purdue. I will say a team that a lot of people thought was vulnerable against High Point, and then some people were doubling down and taking McNeese to upset them in the round of 32. Purdue weathered the storm. 2 wins that were not necessarily like massive wins, I would say, at least points wise. But I think Houston's the better team there. And in the other matchup, perhaps my game of the weekend, Kentucky and Tennessee. I got Tennessee beating Kentucky. Kentucky, good performance against Illinois. But I just think Tennessee is been too good this year. So I think they'll handle Kentucky. But like I said, a good game there. Probably one I'm most excited for.
Yeah. Let's talk about this Houston Gonzaga game if we go back to the round of 32.
Yeah.
A lot of people were rolling heavy with Gonzaga to be the upset, and rightfully so. I mean, they looked dominant the first round. And then everyone not really buying into Houston a lot. They thought, Gonzaga might be the one team to take out number 1 seed. Obviously not the case. After that game, I think Houston really proved themselves to a lot of people. So I'll take Houston against Purdue. But like you said, Purdue definitely one of the teams that we thought, would get upset first round. Not the case with that. But yeah, I actually like Purdue a lot. I like their guard. I forget his name. Um, but he's smooth. He's nice with it. Um, I think Houston's defense and offensive capabilities are way too high, way 2 levels above Purdue. And then Tennessee versus Kentucky. I actually had Xavier in this game. I don't know what the hell's going on with me, man. But I had Tennessee over Xavier, so I'm gonna take Tennessee over Kentucky as well. I just don't believe in Kentucky after last year. I didn't have them. I had them losing to Xavier in the
Yeah.
last round. So,
Yeah.
um, other than that, I mean, like I said, we're looking pretty good in this. I took a bunch of chalk, except that Maryland. I think Maryland is the only one that's gonna upset. But so far, like my Final Four is looking good with Auburn versus Maryland, and then Duke versus Tennessee in the Final Four for me. So
Yeah. All 1 seeds still alive. I think like there's been a thought they said one time before that all 1 seeds made the Final Four. So it doesn't happen often, but this year could be the year. A lot of chalks that goes back to the NIL argument. But
Um, yeah, I'd say overall, looking at the first weekend of March Madness, I know a lot of people thought it was a little underwhelming. Not a lot of storylines as far as like the Cinderella stories, the upsets. But I think there's a lot of teams in a position this weekend that could kind of upend that narrative. Particularly some of these four seeds. Arizona has an opportunity, Maryland has an opportunity, Houston has an opportunity, all against one seed. So I think that could all change this weekend. But I wouldn't be surprised that we kind of continue to see the same flow that we saw to the first weekend, just with Chalks winning out and doing so handily. But I'm hoping for probably a more exciting weekend, if you will, for March Madness.
Yeah, I mean, I would say one thing, like the common factor of the games or common narrative I saw was a lot of teams making pushes like the last 5 minutes or so, not really getting over to take the lead.
Yeah,
Um, which I don't know, that may be a common thing in past years, but this year kind of really stood out to me. With the comeback narrative, there was no really comebacks to take the leads in like
yeah,
the last few seconds. The only game that really was back and forth was that last Maryland game against Colorado State where they had like seven lead changes
yeah,
and obviously the game winner. So, um, I don't know, maybe that's what's gonna happen in the next few years. Um, Another comeback was like for I think round one where Vanderbilt was up 10
yeah,
against St. Mary's and they didn't score for like 6 minutes.
yeah.
So you just see teams going on runs, but then you don't really see them capitalizing on it, except like maybe two teams this year. So
Yeah, I think another thing too to mention, maybe get to credit some of that too. A lot of good coaches still remaining in the tournament. Calipari with Arkansas, former Kentucky coach, of course, John Shire in there with Duke, Nate Oates in Alabama, Tom Izzo in Michigan State. So a lot of like the more, I guess, the older, more experienced coaches have found a lot of success so far in this tournament. A couple first year coaches in there too, BYU. Michigan and Kentucky, I believe, are the three teams that have first year coaches as well. So an interesting dynamic, like some of the more experienced coaches, some of the more blue blood coaches still hanging around, but then some of the newer coaches as well making headway with some of their success. So sets up for an interesting round two. But like I said, for me, like I think that Kentucky Tennessee game will probably steal the show.
okay,
And
if you had to
Michigan
pick,
and Michigan upsetting Auburn, of course.
all right. So is that your upset that you're gonna pick this weekend?
I think that's my upset. Yeah, that in Maryland. I'm going to
Okay,
say that we're going to completely throw this chalk argument out the window, and it's going to be some chaos this weekend.
all right,
So that's my prediction going into the weekend.
all right, bro. Well, we'll see how my upset's gonna be Maryland. I'm gonna take that. So, um, but with that being said, I think that ends our episode. Um, we'll catch you guys next week when the Final Four comes around. Hopefully your brackets are intact. Send us pictures of your Final Four. DM us, like, follow, subscribe, and we'll catch you boys in the next one.